So welcome, our remarkable colleague Kate. We so appreciate your leadership and consistent solidarity. And as always at Setsi, we begin all things by giving thanks to our creator, by giving thanks and acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We give thanks to all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We give thanks to all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So, Kate, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers and share a bit about your remarkable work?
Absolutely, Victor. And thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Kate, and I use the pronouns she, her. And I am calling in from the beautiful Toronto Treaty Territory. I'm on near Lake Ontario, the Scarborough Bluffs. I love Scarborough. And this area, my family's been in for several generations. So I feel really, really connected to this land. So I also want to acknowledge the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Wendat, who have been the keepers of this land for time immemorial. And I love starting any conversation that way. I like to call myself a recovering academic. I have a PhD in communications and culture, and I spent more than a decade in academia, working with some amazing students who are now my colleagues in the charitable sector, particularly in the arts sector. But in 2013, I was called back to the charitable sector and really found a voice doing government relations and doing advocacy. And so I have built a career that spans many parts of the charitable sector, universities, the arts, women's groups, and most recently with Imagine Canada. I really like working for organizations that have that sector view and can really look at problems that exist on the macro level. I am also a mom of two amazing kids, along with my husband living here in Scarborough. And I'm also currently an advisor to the incredible organization Aftermetoo, which works to end workplace sexual harassment. Yeah.
That's incredible. What an introduction and what an incredible body of work. I really appreciate your leadership. And yeah, thank you for your candor and your clear tenacity. We appreciate you. So my first question, what's inspiring you right now? What has you curious or what's keeping you up at nights?
Oh, lots of things are keeping me up at night. We'll definitely talk about the change in government and politics. That's something that I love to talk about. But first, let's talk inspiration. I am so inspired by my colleagues. I am inspired by survivors. I'm inspired by trans activists, by women leaders in the sector. And just to name a few, I was involved with a Hill Day in November with Aftermetoo. There were two incredible senators, Senator Dasko and Senator McFedrin, and our keynote speaker from the Canadian Centre for Gender and Sexual Diversity was the incomparable, the amazing Debbie Owasu Achia. Oh, she is so incredible. She gave the most amazing speech. And my 16-year-old was in the room. It was so lovely to share this incredible room of primarily women fighting for women's rights, fighting for trans rights. Faye Johnston was there. That's another woman who I'm very inspired by. And so my colleagues every single day inspire me. And I like to keep tabs on what everybody is doing online for sure, if I'm not in touch in person. And second, I want to say my elders inspire me. My parents are both artists and teachers, and my house is filled with my dad's art, and I am inspired by them on a daily basis in the work that they have done and the path that they have taken. And then my kids, who I will mention all the time. I have loud, boisterous kids, and I'm here for it. And they are neurodiverse, and they are making the world a better place. And I have full confidence in this very assertive generation that is coming up. And I have a 16-year-old and a 9-year-old, and it is just a pleasure to see them grow and find their way.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for all that. So appreciate you. What context? Absolutely beautiful. So my next question, what challenges and barriers do you face in your work? And what are some of the approaches you and your colleagues are taking to overcome some of these challenges and barriers?
Absolutely. I have a long list here of challenges in the world, and I think I want to I think I want to start with the obvious. The patriarchy has been a huge challenge in my career. Working in academia is a very white space. It's a very male-dominated space, and I left it because I just kept hitting a glass ceiling, and I couldn't find my way to a tenure track position until somebody retired. I want to acknowledge white supremacy as a huge barrier in our sector. I had the privilege of doing a speech. This is so geeky. Policy Wonk moment. I did a speech at the Standing Committee of Canadian Heritage in 2018, in the shadow of the Me Too movement, talking to those MPs about barriers to female leadership in the arts. And it certainly could be applied more broadly across the sector, that we definitely see, and particularly in 2018, we saw a huge influx of white leaders, predominantly male leaders, predominantly leaders who were not even coming from Canada, to lead our major arts institution. And that was really problematic. So I want to acknowledge my privilege, and also, name the white supremacy and the structures that has created, particularly in the charitable nonprofit sector. I want to, because I'm a politics junkie, I want to look at the huge barrier that is coming at us very slowly in 2025, which is most likely a change in government. If you look at the polls, that we're going to lose this left-leaning, we'll just call it leaning. It leans a little bit to the left, a liberal government, and we're probably going to change to a conservative government. And what does that stark political difference mean to our sector, mean to our funding, mean to our workers? So those are some of the huge barriers I'm seeing. And then I have to insert the sector's lack of political acumen, the sector's blinders that they have up to the political reality and the work of doing advocacy and building relationships with government, I have found in my career is absolutely essential to success, and essential to moving an organization in a major way forward, instead of the incremental ways that we're often restricted to. So I would encourage my colleagues who are reticent of talking to political leaders that it is worth the time. And it is worth building those relationships, and those people work for us. And we need to use that resource, use them as ambassadors for our work. And I think there's a huge opportunity there.
I couldn't agree more. I feel that the lack of civic engagement and just knowledge of government relations and public affairs is very problematic for the philanthropic, nonprofits, and charitable sectors. And not only that, it's like when you look at some equity denied groups, and just a lot of folks in our space, when we did a poll, I think it was like 2 years ago, of organizations within our ecosystem that understood the pre-budget submission process, or had even done a pre-budget submission ever, we were appalled. We were shocked. And I feel like the federal government and the province should actually be running campaigns to engage citizenry and say, you know what, we have a process called a pre-budget submission. Like the provincial budget material just came out, I think 2 days ago. The federal budget's coming out, I think April 16th. But like a lot of folks aren't aware of this. And not only that, they don't know that they can actually inform the process and make recommendations and get endorsements. So that there's a lot of work to be done around that. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, for sure. And just to add to that, there are also people out there who know about the process and are so disenchanted with government they don't think it's worth participating in. And I have to champion the work of ONN. They've done a lot of teaching in decoding because it's very much the language of white supremacy. How do we participate in this very structured writing exercise? Because that's what it is. And yeah, I love a good pre-budget brief. I have feelings about pre-budget briefs.
And yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. Our beloved colleague Kathy from ONN just sent me an email this morning. She's leaving to go to the Lawson Foundation, which is a
I
huge deal
know.
for them. But ONN has been a partner, a collaborator, a co-conspirator with Setsi for a very long time. So I couldn't agree more in terms of the work that they're doing in terms of knowledge translation and knowledge mobilization. So my next question, do you have a set of key priorities in your work right now that you'd like to amplify or share?
Sure. One of the key priorities that I have seen across the sector is that, and this isn't just with liberal governments, this is with federal governments for decades now. They have shifted support to project funding and away from core funding. Not that there was a ton of core funding in the 80s and 90s, but that has led us to this scarcity mentality and employing predominantly racialized workers in our racialized women in our sector in this gig economy of like contract to contract, not offering health benefits, not offering stability, not offering, imagine a pension, and all the things that we need to do this heavy lifting in our sector. So I feel like there is this huge disconnect in government and the way we work, and that circles back to the lack of political awareness in our sector that or made it core funding, 5-year funding. That do the time that would free up in our sector would be absolutely transformational. I think that there is a misunderstanding. I think there is even a lot of suspicion after the We scandal of what we do in the charitable nonprofit sector. And so I think that is continuing those conversations potentially led government about what is the best way to support community and to fund our institutions. And then I also have to put a call out to the funding for women's groups in particular. On March 31st, a couple of days from now, to complete its 5 years of funding from Justice and from mainly from the Department of Justice for women's groups who are working on harassment. And it's kind of like the government is saying, oh yeah, we solved harassment in 5 years. Yeah, good for us. It's absolutely ludicrous. The lack of funding that is going to women's shelters, that is going to rape crisis centers. Like those organizations are really struggling to find philanthropic foundations to support them, to find money other than federal funding. And I'm starting to see some of them close. And it is something that the Department of Women and Gender Equality is very aware of. I had conversations with the deputy minister about this, that there is a funding gap, particularly for women's organizations. And I know that the YMCA has a campaign about show me the money. And I know that our colleagues at the Canadian Women's Foundation are doing amazing work. But I just want to shine a light on that particular key priority. Obviously, we all need stable funding, but I'm seeing this real gap with groups who are working for women and gender diverse folks.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. The Show Me the Money campaign's brilliance and the Count Me In work that our brilliant and beloved elder Paulette Sr. and the Canadian Women's Foundation is facilitating. The YWCA, yeah, all those organizations are doing remarkable work, and I couldn't agree more. There is not just a funding gap, there's a cyclical trend of fund and then no infrastructure, fund and then no infrastructure. And I think that it needs to be addressed by both the public and philanthropic sectors. And ideally, a blended finance framework where you actually incorporate the private sector. Because at the end of the day, the private sector is sitting on a tremendous amount of capital. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for your candor and your authenticity as always. So my second last question, what is your ultimate goal and what does success look like and feel like to you and your colleagues?
Well, this has really evolved for me, and I've thought about this a lot in the last year, as I have been consulting and looking for a new opportunity. I love government relations. I love public affairs. I love communications, and my ultimate goal is to use my skills to support a truly progressive leader. And Victor, if you'd asked me this question 20 years ago, I'd be like, I want to be CEO of a major funding institution, probably in the arts. That would have been my answer. And what I have definitely learned in the last 10 years is that I don't need to be the white lady at the front of the room. And I actually don't want to be the white lady at the front of the room. And that I want to support and we've already mentioned several of them, the incredible women who are leading these progressive organizations and actually challenging the status quo and making change. And I want to be the person behind them, talking to government, saying the magic words to government, supporting them in their work. And so that is really my ultimate goal right now, is because I did government relations off the side of my desk at 8 o'clock at night after the kids had gone to sleep for so many years. And I had the privilege and opportunity to do government relations as my whole desk, and public policy work as well. And that just makes me really, really happy. So I'm looking for the opportunity in whatever shape or form it takes for me to do that, and to really use my superpowers for good.
Love it. I love it. I love the fact. I love it when folks discover exactly what they want to do, and it's so refined. I think there's a quote by like Mark Twain: "The most important days."
Very specific.
Yeah, the most important days of your life is the day you're born and the day you figure out that purpose, that thing that drives you. So once again, that's remarkable. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. In terms of the joy that comes from I feel asserting yourself in terms of shaping public policy that has impact on people. Like it's something that's powerful that a lot of folks don't recognize because they're so used to either being on the front lines of work or trying to be the leader of an organization, not recognizing that there are senior bureaucrats, there's people in GR, in comms and public affairs that are really shaping almost everything around you. But you'd have to actually, once again, a lot of times there is a certain privilege that comes with being in certain sectors where you're privy to information. And I think we have to find ways and means like you're doing today, investing some time in knowledge mobilization, sharing this work with folks. And folks may lean in after this conversation, say, you know what? I've never thought about a career in government relations or public affairs or communications from this angle in terms of social impact or the arts or innovation or women and gender justice and gender equity. So once again, I just really appreciate your leadership, your authenticity, your solidarity, and the beautiful spirit and energy you bring to this work. Do you have any closing thoughts or calls to actions for our listeners and our viewers?
Absolutely. I would, as a call to action, I would love everyone to visit the aftermetoo.com website and just check it out. It has a myriad of resources. It's a geolocated website. So if you are experiencing workplace sexual harassment, it will give you information based on the labor laws in your province. So if you're in Manitoba, it's going to give you Manitoba information. If you're in Nova Scotia, it's going to give you Nova Scotia information. And we just need more hits to that website. So I would love for people to check it out. I was involved in creating, if you go down to the training section, you'll find a series of micro trainings. We tried to keep them as short and sweet as possible. They're like 10 to 20 minutes as an employer, and learn about your rights and your responsibilities. So I would love to amplify their work.
Can you share the website name one more time for us?
Sure, sure. It's aftermetoo.com.
Incredible. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all that you do for so many. And as always at Setsi, we close the way we began by giving thanks to the original stewards of the various lands around. We give thanks to all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We give thanks to all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Thank you so much, Kate. I so appreciate you.
And right back at you, Victor. Thank you so much for this opportunity.